I'm Tiffany Underwood, American Red Cross Blood Drive Coordinator at Fairfield Christian Academy. On February 28, 2012, we are having our next drive. Appointments start at 1 o'clock and end at 7 o'clock. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit our booth at Fairfield Christian Church in the foyer to schedule your appointment today. By donating your blood, you can save up to 3 lives. It's your time to make a difference in someone's life.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, Dave Levacy. Welcome, Dave.
Well, thank you, Mike, for having me on. I appricient it.
I'm glad you could be here. We met a couple years ago, and we'll get into that story about some things that we were doing there at the marina, the proprietor of Buckeye Lake Marina.
Yes.
And you've been involved with the fire department, done a lot of things. Talk a little bit about Dave Levacy.
Well, you know, it's a little difficult to talk about yourself, and I've learned in campaigning you have to do a little bit of that, but I reluctantly do it. But tell you a little bit about myself. I came from a large family, a family of 12, and then married my wife, Ann. We've been married for 44 years, this May, 45.
Wow, congratulations.
Started dating 50 years ago. On Valentine's Day, we went to a Valentine's dance together.
Did you ask her out, or did she ask you out?
Well, actually, she asked me. I was a pretty shy guy, so, you know, thank the Lord that she did invite me out. But I have 3 children. 2 live in Pickerington and 1 in Millersport. I also have 3 or 4 grandchildren. I got to be careful there. And I'm blessed to have such wonderful children, a wonderful wife.
You're a graduate of Bishop Fenwick High School?
Yep, Bishop Fenwick High School. I attended High University. Spent a little time in the Army. Did my duty there. I've been with the Millersport Fire Department. I spent several years there. Was a paramedic and a fire chief, and currently serve on City Council as the president of council. I own the Buckeye Lake Marina. And with my 2 sons, which I'm again very fortunate to have there, they help Dad out tremendously, and with that, I'm able to run for this position as county commissioner.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And I want to share about the story that I was doing radio broadcast from Buckeye Lake Marina. At the time, I was going in to have a heart valve replacement, a bypass, and you guys came up with a unique assistance for me.
Right. Well, we were kidding you a little bit, and at the marina we had a couple items, one being a valve and the other being a valve additive, and we were kidding you about that and had you hold it up. We took a photograph of that, which I still have, and you know, of course, you had your surgery, and you went through a very difficult time. Matter of fact, we were praying for you.
I think at one time I was on every prayer list in Fairfield County. I think it was, and it's. But I remember that, and we met the other day. We were talking about that, and I was laughing, sharing it with some businessmen that I know, and they got quite a kick out of it.
Well, you know, again, I kind of felt bad after you became so ill, and but you know, it was all done in good humor.
One of the reasons, you're a lifelong resident of Fairfield County, and we talked a little bit about the other day. We were at the Pickerington Chamber meeting. A little bit why you've decided to enter politics.
Well, I believe in the term public service. You know, so many times we hear that term used, and it's not necessarily for the right reason that people enter to this degree. Again, I served as a volunteer on the volunteer fire department as chief, as a medic, and currently on city council, and I do that with no pay. I'm not. I want to do it in a manner that shows that I'm not bragging. I just believe that we need to give back to our communities. I'm really concerned about the future of our children. and our grandchildren. I'm really concerned about that. I think the economy in this country is really in terrible shape, and with that, I just feel as though I can make a difference. I have 40 years experience in business, and with that experience, I hope to take it to the county level and use it to just help them govern a little better with my experience. We currently have 3 awfully good county commissioners, and with my experience, and I'm replacing Judy Shoup, hopefully, if the electorate decides to do that, bring a little different perspective from the business world to the county commissioners.
Now, one of the area, I mean, we always talk about budget reductions from the state and federal government, things like that. And Fairfield County sits pretty well. I know our sales tax, I think, is pretty low compared to some of the other counties. But just in general, 2-year plan you see, or 3-year plan that you're looking at?
Well, again, you mentioned sales tax. And being in the boat business, I deal with all the other different counties because a person pays tax on a boat they purchase based on what county they live in. So I'm very familiar. Franklin County is 6 3/4, Licking County is 7%, Muskingum County 7%, Perry is 7%. We're 6.5%, and I think a lot of that has because they're. Again, I don't think in many cases it's a matter of income being on the county level. It's a matter of spending and how monies are spent and the constraints that have to be put forward in the spending issue. So you got to really watch the spending and whether it's best utilization of public funds.
Do you get a lot of your friends telling you, gee, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why aren't we doing this?
No, actually, they ask me why would I do this? And again, I feel compelled to do it. I just do. I feel compelled. I think I'm in a position in my life where I can make a difference, and I feel compelled to do that.
Running the business that you've run for a number of years and taking that experience into city council or to county commissioner, the county's growing. It's growing at a pretty exponential rate. Growth for Fairfield County, economic development?
Well, I think there's 2 major issues that we're faced with. The first being economic development. I think you solve a lot of social issues if a person has a job. Now, when I hear politicians say they're going to create jobs, I think that's nonsense. I don't believe that government creates jobs. They create an atmosphere, or the politicians should create an atmosphere that makes it conducive for business to flourish. And so basically, you get out of their way. Now, you have to have rules and regulations, of course. Otherwise we would have total chaos. But you don't make it difficult. You make it easy for a business person to flourish. The second being law enforcement. I think it's very important, especially in this world we live in today, with the opiate addiction, and that's a major problem. Many people don't want to admit that. But with that comes other crimes, breaking and enterings. I always make the comment somebody would kill their grandmother for their next fix, and it's bad. And we need to give the tools to law enforcement to accomplish that job. And part of it's through education, to educate the public on the seriousness of this, and some of these young kids on how serious it is.
Do you think a lot of people just bury their head in the sand and say, well, this is Fairfield County and it doesn't happen here? In reality, it's a major problem here.
It happens everywhere. I don't think anybody, rich, poor, in between, there's no exclusions. I have a good friend in the Pickerington area who just lost a daughter, a very, very, very nice family, and what a shame.
We talked about you've been married to your wife, is it Ann?
Yeah, that's Ann, yes.
44 years,
yes.
It's going to be 45 coming up. Do you see the values of Americans going back to forget, but when you grew up, the days when you grew up being together all the time?
I have to be quite honest. I think the answer is no. I think our society has changed, not necessarily for the good, but it has changed. And so you have to deal with the reality of the situation, with the reality of the times, and just make things as best you can with the resources you have.
I'm talking with Dave Levacy, candidate for Fairfield County Commissioner, also the owner of Buckeye Lake Marina. And there's always the first 100 days of any elected office. What are you going to do in the first 100 days? Do you have a plan?
I've been attending the commissioners' meetings, and one of the reasons it's a learning process. It's a pretty extensive office. There's a lot to learn, and I'm just scratching the surface. And so with Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Kiger, I hope to, receive guidance through these gentlemen and do what's right. It may take me a little time.
Do you remember when you were first approached about running for commissioner? Or did you say, "Oh yeah, that's great," or did you say, "I better think about this"?
It took me several months to decide. Matter of fact, I had never ever considered doing this. Matter of fact, a year ago, if you would have asked me that question and said you were going to do it, I would have said you're crazy.
Do you like to campaign?
I do. I like, again, I'm not used to asking for support, asking for money, because it's quite expensive to run a campaign. I'm not used to that. That's not who I am. And so, but I think it's been, it's been very interesting seeing the rest of the county. I mean, I've not done that. I'll be perfectly frank. I mean, I've driven through it and I've been around it, but I've never really gone out and talked to people. And so it's been very interesting, very enlightening. And we got a lot of good people here in Fairfield County.
If you were promoting Fairfield County as a commissioner, what would you talk to individual wanting to move to Fairfield County?
I would say it's a good place to live and raise a family. I would say that. I think it's a wonderful place. I think we have a lot of resources that are, basically untapped. And I think there's a lot of community support. The parks levy was just passed, so that shows there's a lot of good support within the county to promote the county, if you will.
Do you follow national politics?
Oh yes.
What do you think about all the Republican debates going on now?
Well, it's a little disheartening at times. I believe there's a couple good candidates out there, and I've already chosen mine. I wish Ronald Reagan was still alive, but he's not.
A lot of people do.
Right. But I hate to see Republicans shooting Republicans.
One of the, we talked about all the different aspects of being involved as a county commissioner, and it's going to take some time. I mean, it's going to take some time to, attend meetings and subcommittee meetings and all those things. And is that something you've talked about with your wife and said, gee, I'm going to be gone a little bit more? You're going to have to run the marina? No, right. Your son's do it.
My wife is quite used to that. I'm involved in many organizations as well as the village politics right now.
Right.
Of course, once, hopefully, if I'm elected, I'll have to step down from that, so I'm trading one position for the other. But my wife is quite supportive. The other is my sons, because they're going to have to take on more responsibility with Dad gone. And I think it's time. I think it's time for them to step up. I want them to own the business, and they need to learn all the aspects. But they're quite good. I'm quite proud of my two boys as well as my daughter.
Yeah. Great family.
Yep.
State of Ohio, just in general, it's fallen on some hard times, and we're bouncing back a little bit. But just in general, some thoughts from years going by to that?
Well, I think currently, although he's taken some major hits, Governor Kasich, I think his intentions are to do the right thing. And of course, again, he follows the same beliefism that I do, that you need to, you need to create an atmosphere for business growth, and I think he's doing that. It may take some time, but I think he's a great governor, and I think currently, I think he's the man.
I know there's a lot of, Ohio has seen its share of jobs going out of state, and some of the other states have also. But as a small business owner, talk a little bit about how you run your business. I mean, I know you've grown that business quite a bit, but talk a little bit about just how small businesses are affected here in Ohio.
I think the biggest thing that can affect businesses is, number one, taxes. I think if your taxes are too high, it's not going to be conducive for someone wanting to come to Ohio as well as Fairfield County. So you have to be very, very concerned about that, and you have to watch that. The second thing is regulations. You have to be very concerned about the regulations you put in. It is the regulation for the right reason, for the right purpose, and is it going to accomplish something that is meaningful? And if it's not, don't do it. And so many times there's legislation put through that really has no value. Years ago, let me give you a for instance. Years ago, we had regulations put in place that allowed, first of all, the EPA, and then later the Health Department to regulate marinas. Now, I will say this: marina operators are some of the cleanest people in the world as far as protecting the water.
Right.
But these regulations allowed an overview of the marina operation, and invariably, the only thing they would ever find wrong is that I didn't have enough toilet paper in my restroom. And that regulation had no value. And so consequently, it went away. But it should have never been put there in the first place.
Did you ever foresee Buckeye Lake becoming what it is today?
It's a great place. I mean, the majority, and a lot of people in Fairfield County don't realize this, the majority of it is in Fairfield County. It's actually subdivided in 3 counties: Licking and Perry and of course Fairfield. And it's a great place, and it's a great resource that needs to be promoted more.
I've had this question asked me: how deep is the lake?
Well,
people, that seems to be a topic of conversation for everyone.
When you have to refer to Buckeye Lake as being deep, it's not.
Okay.
It's a shallow lake. It was actually a man-made lake for the purpose of the Ohio Canal system in the early 1820s. And it was actually what they called a canal feeder lake, which actually provided water for the locking systems as well as the canal system.
That's right. You were talking about the canal system the other day.
Right.
That it went from Millersport or Buckeye Lake to all the way to Athens. Is that?
Well, no. It actually went from Millersport, going east, if you will, and then south through the Licking River and then into the Muskingum River. Then it went the other direction, west and south, if you will, down through Baltimore and through Canal Winchester and Lockville and down that direction. Of course, Lockville was called Lockville because there were so many locks there.
Right. It's interesting. I know we have a lot of people that are interested in Buckeye Lake, and the whole overall concept of being county commissioner. What's that mean to you? When somebody walks up and says, "This is Dave Levacy, county commissioner."
Well, I think if I were elected, it'd be very humbling, first of all. And second of all, I'm going to take that position very seriously. And again, my contention is not just for the future, but the future of our children and our grandchildren, and making this a better place to live. That's my goal.
Well, Dave, we've appreciated you having on today, talking about all your background and the position of county commissioner. And do you have any activities coming up? Any fundraisers, anything like that that are going on?
Well, I don't myself. Right now, I'm just trying to get to the various meetings and the various events and shake a lot of hands, introduce myself.
Kiss a lot of babies.
Well, yeah, that's always a joke, but I haven't found any babies to kiss.
It is. I'd like to do that. When I was running for city council, I'd like to do that. I'd go out and shake hands.
It's good experience to actually talk to people and see what their perspective is and the things they think that need to be done. So it's been very enlightening.
Do you get a lot of conversations with people that we talked earlier about, people asking you why we do this, that you've talked to somebody and you just, that's not how it works? I mean, that's not, their concept of government's just different? Or?
Yeah, I think some people can have the wrong view of government, that the government can solve all the problems. I don't think government should solve everybody's problems. I believe in personal responsibility, and if a person is incapable of helping for themselves, then government should be able to help them. But they first need to help themselves.
We just have a few minutes left here. Talking with Dave Levacy, candidate for Fairfield County Commissioner. I know people have probably given you a lot of advice about, well, you should do this and do that. If someone were coming out of college today, or even high school today, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, I'd be very concerned about the schooling they're getting. You know, as it's been brought forward, there's not enough technical education out there, and the technical education in the industrial world is where they need to be. So I would first scope out and find out exactly who's hiring and where the job openings are before they seek a education in a area that there's no job openings. So first of all, be very concerned about that. Second of all, you know, what you're spending. You know, don't get in debt if you don't need to, because I think you can be a slave to debt, and so you have to be careful in that regard.
Well, again, Dave, we've appreciated having you coming on today and taking time out of your busy schedule, and we wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you.
The March 6th.
March 6th.
March 6th is the primary, and hopefully things will be all right and we'll get you in office. And again, we do appreciate you coming out.
Well, thanks again for having me.
And maybe we get a picture of that valve.
Right. Well, we'll send that to you, and again, you know, it was the Lord's intervention that helped you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dave Levacy, Fairfield County candidate for commissioner. Again, we do appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in on this edition of Lancaster Perspective. Remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
Mark your calendar for Friday, March 9th at 7 o'clock p.m. for the Fairfield Christian Academy Night of Excellence 2012. This year's speaker is former Ohio State linebacker Anthony Schlegel, along with a special performance by the OSU Alumni Band. Tickets are available at the FCA Elementary Office and Door B, or online at www.fcaab.org. Again, that is March 9th at 7 o'clock p.m. featuring Anthony Schlegel at Fairfield Christian Academy.